here with Jason Nunn, the head baseball coach at Pickens High School. And Coach, you guys, you missed the region playoff by one game, but you had a significant improvement from this season from last season. Talk a little bit about the season and the growth of the team.
Well, you know what? Early in the year, we played real well. We went over to Alabama and played two top-ranked teams over there. One was ranked second in the state. One was ranked number 8 in the state. Beat both of those teams in one day in a doubleheader. And at that time, in my opinion, we were playing some of the best baseball that I've ever seen here at Pickens. And then I don't know, that little flu bug kind of went around that next week or whatever, and then we played Fayette and didn't have everybody there, and gave up some runs, got beat that game, and it kind of started at that point to go sour. And then by the next week when we played Cedartown, then we just come out flat all 3 games against them, and Cedartown is a very beatable club. We should have beat them all 3 games. And you look at earned runs and things like that, we made some errors in those games, and we should have won all 3. And if we won all 3 of those, we're right where we need to be at the top of the region, going to playoffs. And then again, the series we had with River Ridge, had we played like that the whole season or the whole region season, we easily come in first place on our side. So, we just had some bad luck. We kicked the ball around at times, and it got in some of our kids' heads and things like that. And it's hard to win when you make errors. When you're giving people 5 and 6 outs an inning, sometimes it's real hard to win. It's hard to overcome those 6, 7, 8 run innings that you give up because of that. But we matured a lot, just between, from the Cedartown game to the end of the season. I think we matured a lot as a baseball team. We've got freshmen playing on the field like Tyler Garner and Zach Herman. We had sophomore on the field with Cameron Gregory, all good ball players. So we're still, next year, going into next year, we lost some good seniors and some good pitchers. But going into next year, I think it's going to be really, really good, confidence boost for us going into next year, because, we got Eric Justice coming back probably on the mound, and Chandler Cope looked real well. He was a transfer this year for us and done real well. So going into next season, and Cameron Gregory pitched real well, surprisingly. So I think by next year we get those 2 or 3 guys going on the mound, and we're going to be tough to beat next year as well.
Now, explain how effective and how important the pitching is, especially on the high school level.
Well, you know what? Since I've been here, I've always said if I had 2 or 3 dominant pitchers, then we were going to win games, because we always had a really good defense. And I feel like we can score 1 or 2 runs a game at least. And like this year, we averaged at one point, I know a little over halfway through the season, we were averaging 9 runs a game. So you shouldn't be getting beat, by anybody averaging 9 runs a game. So pitching is very important. But we found out this year that defense is just as important. And I think it boils down to a lot of me really focusing more on pitching, because we haven't had it in the past, and I knew we had some potential coming up, and I really focused pretty heavily on pitching, and that may have took me away from the defensive side of the game, some at practices and things like that. But we're limited with coaches here. I've got me and Coach Cheshire, and Coach Cheshire did a great job, and then with our JV and freshman teams, Coach Thompson and Coach Shaw had those guys. And when you're talking about 3 clubs and you got 46 kids, I mean, it's real hard to do everything you need to get done with 4 coaches, especially when you're looking around the region at people like Cass. It's got 4 or 5 people in the dugouts. You got River Ridge, it's got 3 or 4 people in the dugout in their games, and and I'm sitting there with me and Coach Cheshire. So it's really tough sometimes for me, because I feel like I've got to spend more time, say, with pitching. Like I said, and our pitching was tremendous this year. You look at our team ERAs, and I mean, we had some good pitchers this year, and did real well. We're going to have, like I said, Dylan Childers will probably end up signing Highlands. Georgia Highlands already offered him. Ryan Hart, I think he's got an offer on the table, and a couple other places, obviously, that have offered him. I don't think he's very interested in. But like I said, I mean, we had the pitching we needed to have. We just didn't have guys make routine plays at times.
Right.
It's just like we didn't show up some days, on defense, and we'd play some head games, and baseball is a 90% mental game. If you can overcome those little errors that you make in a game, then you're going to do pretty good. But if you're one of these guys that can't get over that error that you made in the first inning, well, it's going to be, it's going to be a long game.
Right.
The ball's going to be hit back to you at some point. If you can't make that play, then we're going to be in trouble. And basically that's just, that's what happened. We just had kind of, when we make an error, it's like you saw it coming. It's a snowball effect. Here it comes. We're going to make another error. And before you know it, we've given up 5 or 6 runs in one inning. And normally we only did it one inning out of the game. But
right.
by the time it happened, the damage was done, and we couldn't climb back from it.
Now, let me ask, when you see that happening, when you see that first error, or if you see a kid that tends to let the errors bother him, make that first error, how do you, I guess, try to curtail it, or how do you address it, or how do you recognize it?
Well, the best way, you have to know kids, and you have to know each kid on an individual basis. You have to know who you can really jump on. Because me personally, when I was playing, if I was pitching, I was on the mound, and I wouldn't, perform like I needed to. My coach, Coach Foster, would come out to the mound, and he would chew me up one side and down the other. I'm not going to say exactly what he said, but he always knew how to get me motivated on the mound by making me mad. So the more mad that I got, or upset I got, the better I was, and the harder I was going to go after you. Some kids aren't that way. Some kids, if you jump on, then they're really just going to, tuck their tail and be done, shut down for the day. So it's going to be a case-by-case basis. There are some kids that I know I can jump on pretty good and motivate them to make them play. Some kids I'll have to pull off to the side and say, listen, it's just one error. It's baseball. It's part of baseball. You're going to make errors. I said, but you've got to give me 110% next time it happens. You've got to be confident you're going to make the play. The sports psychology portion of the game sometimes plays a big role, especially in high school sports, because when you got a kid that is really, really just down on his luck out there, it's hard, and halfway through our season, we shuffled, we brought outfielders in to play infield and put infielders out to the outfield to play, and it made a difference for some of our kids. And that's why we played, I think, so well there the last, like I said, 2 or 3 weeks of our season, especially the last week. But like I said, some kids just can't get over that mental hump. If they make an error, if they strike out, you can see it. And those kids. If certain kids strike out to begin the game, they'll be done for the rest of the game just because their mental capacity now has gone down to, oh no, I've struck out. I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to have a bad game kind of thing. And it's just like I tell any kid, and any kid at any level. If he goes to the plate thinking, please don't let me strike out. Please don't let me strike out. If that's his attitude, 9 times out of 10 he's going to strike out.
Right.
Because he's put that there. Same thing in the field. If that kid's out there saying, gosh, I hope you don't hit it to me because I don't want to make an error. Please don't let me make an error. Well, it's going to happen because you've planted that here. And like I said, you really see a lot of sports psychologists at the professional level. A lot of people don't see that behind the scenes kind of stuff, but you're having sessions with those guys all the time because it's so mental. This game is so mental. It's the reason that Nomar Garcia-Parra used to do all that stuff with his gloves every time before he stepped in the box. This game is so mental, and anything that a kid can do, whether it's, I'm probably one of the most superstitious people you ever come across. Anything a kid can do to get that mental edge, if he thinks wearing a pink shoestring makes him a better baseball player, does it? No. But will it? Yes, because he's got that mental attitude. It's just try to be as positive as you can with kids, especially at the high school level. But at the same time, you got to let them understand it's not okay to sit out there and make error after error after error. So it's really hard to tackle that, especially in a game,
right?
Because you're trying to keep that kid in the game. So, like I said, you really have to know.
Excuse pardon the interruption, but at this
Now, Coach, you talked about having to move players around, some outfielders in the infield and vice versa. Do you think going into next year that having players haven't had to play multiple positions will have a positive effect on their ability next year?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned Zach Herman already. That kid's played everywhere on the field this year. I mean, he can even catch. I mean, he can pitch, catch, first, second, third, short, and anywhere in the outfield, he's played them this year. And that's a freshman, and that's asking a lot of a freshman. But he's one of those kids that has some baseball savvy about him. He's played the game a lot. He's played competitively. Same way with Cameron Gregory. He plays with these Kyle Braves and Astros, and that's highly competitive baseball. In fact, he made top 100 in perfect game, Cameron Gregory did, which is a huge deal. In his age group, I think there's about 600 kids.
Oh, wow.
For that, he made top 100 there. And Dylan Clark is a guy that can play anywhere pretty much in the infield. He played left field for the most part, but he plays in infield this year too. And he's an infield converted to outfield. What I've learned over the years is a lot of times I'll run short on outfielders. So what I've learned, and a lot of coaches probably do the same thing, is I take my fifth infielder. So you got four infielders. I'll take my fifth infielder, and I'll always put him in the outfield because that kid is athletic and he can catch. So Dylan Clark has been a infielder his whole life probably, and he's played second base for me since he's been here. And last year in the summer, we made a move to put him in the outfield, and his arm strength has gotten tons stronger. And he's playing left field and played as well as anybody that I've ever had in the outfield. And me myself, I played shortstop, my whole life until I got to about the 10th grade, and then my coach said, "Look, you're fast, you're strong arm, look at your outfield." So the rest is history. I mean, it was a good move. I ended up playing, professional baseball,
obviously,
in the outfield.
Right.
So, sometimes kids don't understand that, and I get into that whole thing with their parents when I change them from, well, he's played this position his whole life and all that kind of stuff, and I understand that. But here we're going to have to do what's best for the team and what I feel is best for the player. I really feel like Dylan Clark, after the season he hit close to 400 this year, and just balled out in the outfield. I mean, just really had a great season. And that kid can play somewhere in the outfield. He ought to be able to go play at the next level somewhere. And like I said, all because I saw that kid could play there. And I guarantee if you ask him, he's probably happier in the outfield now than he was in the infield because, like I said, he's such a good outfielder. But like I said, we've got some guys that can pretty much play all over the field, and we have to, because we don't have a whole lot of depth like a Cartersville or a Ringo or somebody like that. We don't have that kind of depth, so we have to have kids shuffle around all the time.
Now talk about that as your lack of depth, and how do you, obviously, you say you move players around, but when you just come across a team that's real deep at multiple positions, how do you prepare your team, because you still have to play them?
Right. I would love to be in a situation where I'd have tons of depth. I'd like to be able to make pitchers only, have those guys doing their own workout, have infielders only, and have those guys doing their own workout, outfielders same thing, and catchers same thing, have their own groups and have those groups working every day together. But it's just, I'm not, high school baseball, especially here, you're just not fortunate enough to have that kind of depth.
Right.
We have good players. Do we have 18 good players at any given time? No. Normally we have a solid, 7, 8, 9 pretty good players. But the bottom line is, most of the time, especially in the lineup, if you got 1 through 9, you're only as good as your weakest player.
Right.
And I think that's why we were so competitive this year, is because really in our lineup, if you look at our lineup, anybody could get on base at any given time because everybody in that lineup could hit or put the ball in play. So, it'd be great to have a whole lot of depth every year, but like I said, it's just not the case here.
All right. Well.